I had a guidance call last week on Sunday with a young man who was just sick and tired of his self-sabotaging pattern. He would get excited, motivated, inspired about a particular direction he wants to move in his life. But just as he starts to get the action going, just when he starts to plan, a few weeks into it, the buildup of anxiety would kick in. Then he would inevitably get in his own way. He would have negative self-talk, doom scrolling on YouTube, and a host of other things as well. He didn't know why this was happening, where did it come from, or how to even stop the whole thing to begin with. So if you relate to him, my question is, what if this isn't an issue of discipline or motivation? What if this is cultural? You see, him and I, we connected in that way more deeply because my background is Armenian, but I was born in Iraq. He is up in Sweden, but he's also Iraqi as well. And so we related on that level where the upbringing that we've had, it's more, if it's a cultural norm, that failure is embarrassing. Failure is not looked at as a necessary part, although everyone logically knows that. But there's this undertone of disappointment when it happens, that you've just let yourself, your family down, you've sort of embarrassed us in the community to a degree, and you can feel that pressure. This doesn't, of course, have to be a cultural thing. This can be just the way you've grown up with your family. But generally speaking, if you're in the eastern side of the world, the Middle East, Asia, India, it doesn't really matter. That area has a very similar approach to failure. And what this can really do, if you imagine it, it can make trying things unsafe. After all, if I put my neck out, if I try to attempt something different, go for a ambition that I feel called towards, if I do it and I mess it up, what's going to be coming my way? How are people going to look at me? How are people going to react to me? How many people did I let down? Progress eventually just starts to become a massive negative association. So you end up just wanting to stay exactly where you are just to feel comfortable. But then, of course, at the same time, you have a deeper calling within you that wants more out of your life, that you want to actually pursue different things. You're tired of getting in your own way. And so you're just in this constant battle. So then the next question is, why do we ruin things when we actually start to see progress? If our upbringing is revolved around pressure, expectation, outcome, how we look to our parents, how we look to our neighbors, if that's the case, then you can absolutely imagine how just when you actually start to feel progress, because the association is negative, then progress will now feel like you're sticking your neck out. You're going to actually start having eyes look at you. And with eyes looking at you, naturally there's going to be some judgment, inevitably. But that judgment will be highlighted even more given the narrative, given the upbringing, given the entire dynamic. So then, of course, anytime you'll feel progress, and it doesn't matter, which is why you might go through cyclical cycles where you'll pick something you feel excited about. You want to move towards it. But as you start to move towards it, you feel this exposure. And especially when you hit a bit of a roadblock where all of a sudden you're now doubting your capabilities, you're doubting your self-worth, which then causes you to self-sabotage, getting your own way with whatever version of self-sabotage you do. So then how can we now break this sabotaging pattern if we are still within that cultural environment? If, like the young man I spoke to, you're not in a position where you can actually leave that environment, your battle is going to be a lot harder. You're around your parents all the time, or your siblings, or family friends, or whatever it is, and they all have the same ethos, then of course, naturally, for you to actually try to change, what's going to end up happening is you're going to feel this split personality, where there's going to be a part of you that as you're developing, you feel is almost now becoming alienated from the group. You feel extremely awkward, uncomfortable, and scared to actually present that version of you, in fear, of course, of being rejected, which again comes right back to that fear of failure. And then at the same time, you have the old version of you, the version of you that you're used to, adapted to, growing up in that kind of environment to go along to get along. And so now you have this, the two aspects of you now. The challenge is, how do you converge them? Well, the first most important thing is you have to be able to access that deepest part of you, to be able to discern between your deepest self and all these complexes that form within you. And again, complexes are emotions, thoughts, images, moving pictures that all rotate together and bundle themselves up into a narrative. The narrative can be, if I fail, then my worth is low. I have low self-worth. I'm not worthy of attention. I'm not worthy of love. I'm not worthy of affection. There's a narrative associated to it. And they're all directly linked to early memories, dynamics, situations, traumatic events, whatever it is that combine themselves and eventually form into complexes. You have to discern between who that is in the center and who are all these other parts of you. Because if you can't discern, then you're never going to know whether or not one of them is actually hijacking your conscious attention and making you act and say and do things you otherwise would not want to say, think, or do. Knowing that at your deepest center, you are the person you want to become. If you want to be somebody who is successful or courageous or just at peace with themselves, you at the deepest level already are. It's just the exterior hasn't caught up yet. The outer flesh has not met that level. And if you want to see an example of tapping into that inner state, I have a practice for it. You can actually click right up on the screen right now. It's a live call, a coaching call that I did with Victor, and he displayed it perfectly. So if you want to see that live in action, go ahead and click that. This is what I call exercising the spiritual muscle. As you exercise that part of you, and you're able to discern between the voices and the moving pictures and images in your mind that are, in my belief, derived from the complexes that have developed through your upbringing. As you strengthen that and you act on it, you start to make decisions. You start to go for walks, communicate, build and dream and imagine from that place. All your answers are going to come from it. Which then leads me to the next thing. Why you should avoid a lot of the self-help gurus that paint this picture that change within you can happen just overnight. They give this perception that change is going to happen simply by you just saying, oh, I'm going to change, and then that's it. Boom, it's over. It's all just been something you've been stuck with and you've been doing it for fun. That part, I'm just filibustering at that last part. But nevertheless, they paint this picture that change can be that simple. But you can imagine how devastating that is, especially for the young man who was taking in that kind of content. What that's going to do is, it is giving the impression that if, let's say, you're pushing 20 pounds at the gym, that tomorrow by a decision you can push 500. It's just been a limitation in your mind. Are there limiting beliefs holding you back? Of course there are. That's what I talk about in the deeper narratives, or the prophetic stories that we have within us that dictate our future. They don't have to. Those are limiting beliefs, but you cannot remove them simply by just saying they're gone. What you can do is decide you want to begin changing. But then the time it'll take to when you will actually notice change and feel change, of course, will take time. Otherwise, you will be so disappointed when you go to the gym the next day and you try to lift weights and you can't do it. You can't push that 500 pounds. And then you're setting yourself up for sabotage again. Oh, I can't do it. I knew I couldn't do it. Why are all these people online saying that I can do this, X, Y, and Z? They must have it so easy. They must just be a lot better than me. I've been in that boat before. When I was much younger, when I was 18, 19 years old, I took in a lot more of that kind of content. And, it does make you feel excited. It does make you feel good about yourself for the moment, but it is just inevitably setting yourself up for more inner conflict. Now, if you want long-term change, what does that process actually look like? The best way I can describe it in an analogy form would be if you're a vehicle and you have this desire, this dream to go across country. But let's imagine there've been no maintenance, no inspections, no oil changes, nothing. Nothing was done to maintain or to even replace parts. And instead of doing that work, we've then decided, I'm just going to go for it. What will inevitably happen is your vehicle cannot go that far. It's not that it can't inherently. A car can go across country, but you must first do the maintenance, do the rebuilding, the restructuring, and all of that is a process that I always say measure in months and years rather than days and weeks. If you measure in days and weeks, it's just too zoomed in. You can't see it. You have to zoom out much farther than that. Think of a stock graph. You got to zoom in out to actually see that graph progressively going up. But if you just stay super zoomed in, oh buddy, it's going to go this way one day, it's going to go down this way the next, and you're just going through up and down swings of anxiety and excitement. It's just not a healthy way to live. So as you zoom out farther, you can gain the bigger picture, because in 6 months' time, in 1 year's time, you can make so much change. It's unbelievable. And what is, again, the change specifically? Catching when the sabotaging loop begins. What are the emotions, thoughts, images, moving pictures that begin to activate prior to the sabotaging pattern? As the young man said for himself, it was anxiety would build up. Anxiety would build up and build up and build up, doesn't know where it's coming from. Then boom, all of a sudden it's just too much. He needs to cope, he needs to do something different and completely derail the progress he's making. So it's about being able to discern that deepest center from the complexes that hijack, that come in, that try to protect you, by the way. They're just trying to take care of you so that, of course, this part of you doesn't want to see embarrassment, doesn't want to feel shamed and stressed and extremely uncomfortable when it doesn't have to. So it's going to protect you. But there's one thing having them take the charge, and it's another thing having you take the charge, but not in a dominating way, but in a leadership role that treats these parts of you as a counsel, people that are there to advise you, but not obviously take the lead. Micro to macro. It's the small changes that lead to big changes. It's not fancy. It's not, glamorous, but it works, and it works pretty consistently. If you want to now see a deeper breakdown of what loop patterns are and how you can actually interrupt them, this way they're no longer in control of you, but rather just advisors that you can turn to in time of need, or when they're pointing something out to you that you're not able to notice, click the video right over here. It's a much deeper breakdown, and it's going to really help you in that direction.